Alright everyone, we had a couple problems on Twitter in regards to the discussion whether Jozy Altidore was overrated or not, so I just decided to make a video about it. And we're going to make a video diving into his career, diving into his stats, injuries, his strength, his weaknesses. I'm going to talk about all of that in this video. Alright, but before we determine if he's overrated or not, we do need to know how do people rate him. So we did a poll on YouTube, that's why you guys do need to respond, and we're going to go based off what people voted the most there. So in the poll, we asked everyone to tell us our opinion on Jozy Altidore, and I mentioned that we might analyze him, and there you are, we're analyzing him. The options were crap, awful player, bad player, okay, average player, good player, and world class. Obviously, most people see him as an average player. Whoever voted world class, go see a doctor right now. We're gonna go with okay average player. Let's dive into his career now by rolling the episode. Hi, Pedro Parker here. So, if you guys hate Tactical Manager, this is the perfect video to hate on him down below. If you love him, it's the perfect video to defend him, but no one loves him, so all hate. Everyone make sure you comment down below hate. I'm not going to comment anything because I really don't care about Jozy Altidore. Alright, so Jozy Altidore is an American player for the US men's national team in Toronto FC. He's a center forward, he shoots with his right foot, and his peak market value throughout his career was $9.9 million at September of 2013. Throughout his career, Jozy Altidore played through several clubs. He played for Toronto FC, AZ Alkmaar, Sunderland from the Premier League, the New York Red Bulls, Hull City from the Premier League, Villarreal from La Liga, and Bursaspor from the Turkish League. He had 406 games and had 150 goals. His stats are not bad, to be honest, they're actually pretty good. However, stats matter and they need context. You can't just go off the stats. So let's dive into each club and figure out where he scored these goals. Why? Let's dive into it. The first team is the New York Red Bulls. Jozy Altidore started his career in 2006 for the New York Red Bulls, and at the time they were known as the Metro Stars. He made his debut at age 16. He played there until 2008. He scored 16 goals in 41 matches. Not bad for a young player. Now, let's go into the context of these stats. The MLS at the time was a very weak league, and for his age, even though he was young, he was physically gifted. So those are impressive numbers, but let's tone it down a little bit and move on to the next club. It's nothing too impressive, but pretty good for a 16 to 18-year-old. Then he transferred from New York Red Bulls to Villarreal to play at La Liga. After his time with the New York Red Bulls, he headed to La Liga, more specifically Villarreal, as I mentioned. He technically stayed for Villarreal from 2008 to 2011, based on his contract. However, he was in and out on loans. Before I get to that, let's talk real quick about the context of the stats I'm going to mention. Villarreal is a very technically gifted league. Players are skilled. It's not really a physical league. So, in my opinion, when this transfer happened, it was bound to not work. Jozy Altidore is not the most technically gifted player. He's more of a physical player. During his time at Villarreal, he had 22 games and 3 goals only. Okay, so those stats are terrible, terrible stats. But I don't blame Jozy Altidore. This is not the right league for him. But then let's move on in the video to other leagues he played for and go to the third team he played. As I said on the Villarreal section, Jozy Altidore had several loans when he was at Villarreal's contract. The very first one was Xerez from La Liga 2, halfway through the 2008-2009 season. However, he never played a single game for them. He had a toe injury, required surgery, and just didn't play at all. The second loan he got when he was at Villarreal was to Hull City at the English Premier League. That's a more physical league, so you would expect Jozy Altidore to have some type of success. And most recently, we've seen the success of players like Romelu Lukaku at the Premier League. But that's not quite how this went. Jozy Altidore stayed there for the 2009-2010 season, where he played 30 games and got only 2 goals. He played in the Premier League 28 games and scored only 1 goal. He got minutes, started very often, but just didn't deliver. At least he scored against Manchester City, which is a big team, but they weren't very big at the time. They were growing, I guess. Who cares about Manchester City? He did also have some behavior problems at Hull City, which pretty much was how it ended for him. Now, he did have a third loan for Villarreal at the 2010-2011 season. They loaned him in January to Bursaspor at the Turkish League, where he played for 6 months, and in 12 matches he scored 1 goal in 523 minutes. Another failure in a much weaker league. So in this section, what we analyzed is he wasn't a technically gifted league, a very technical league like La Liga. Didn't work out. That was fine with me. Now he went to the Premier League, which is a more physical league. Didn't work out. But that's a top league, maybe even the best league in the world. And then he went to the Turkish League, which is very physical but much weaker. And he also didn't do well. Man, things are not looking good for Jozy Altidore. Let's keep going with the video. There's more clubs to talk about. Maybe he'll bounce back eventually. Let's go to his time at the Dutch League at AZ Alkmaar, where he transferred in 2011-2012 season. Villarreal was finally able to sell Jozy Altidore, and at the time by 1/5 of the price they paid for him. Well, and his goal in the Dutch League was to score goals and get it going again. And he was still 22 years old, and the Dutch League is a development league. So essentially, that's the context right there. He went to a development league, and now he's still 22. So he had an opportunity to bounce back and get his career going. And well, Jozy Altidore was back, he was scoring goals, and he had 2 fantastic seasons for AZ Alkmaar at the Dutch League. During his time at AZ, in 2 seasons, in 93 matches, he scored 51 goals, won the Dutch Cup, and was even named Footballer of the Year at Netherlands in 2013. 2 great seasons in a row. And yes, the Dutch League's not the most competitive league in the world, but that is still pretty impressive that he was able to do it twice in a row, been named Footballer or Soccer Player of the Year. So congratulations to Altidore, and he was bouncing back, and it seemed like he was getting his career on track and showing his talent once again. In the summer of 2013, AZ Alkmaar sold Jozy Altidore to Sunderland for $11 million, at the time above his market value, so it was a pretty big investment for the Premier League team. But Jozy Altidore was even a bigger disappointment. It was expected that an older and more mature Jozy Altidore would have what it takes to bounce back in the Premier League, but he did not. Altidore played a total of 52 games and scored 3 goals in 2 seasons. In the 2013-2014 season, he played 31 Premier League matches and scored 1 goal in a total of 1,775 minutes. Not good at all. So that was his second chance in the Premier League, a top league in the world, a physical league, and he disappointed again. Not looking good, man. I know he did well in the Dutch League, but this is not good. Now to the present. And I mean, by the time of the recording, he's still a Toronto FC player. Maybe when you're watching it, he's not anymore. But right now, he still is. In January of 2015, Sunderland traded Jozy Altidore to Toronto for Jermaine Defoe. And Jozy was finally back to the MLS after several terrible European leagues. For Toronto, he has been fairly successful. And at the time of the recording, he has 154 games and 74 goals. Where he also won 1 Supporters' Shield, 1 MLS Cup, 2 Canadian Cups, an MLS Cup MVP, great campaigns, great performances. However, he has been struggling with injuries as of late. In the 2020 MLS season, he played only 12 games and scored 2 goals. However, despite the last season not being too good, let's not take the credit away. He's been very good for Toronto FC. But it is the MLS too. We know the MLS is not up there yet as a league, maybe in the future, but right now it is not. Okay, so Jozy Altidore played for 7 different clubs where he was successful in 3 and failed in 4. However, it's very important to point out that when he was successful, they were weaker leagues. Yes, he was successful in the MLS with the New York Red Bulls and Toronto FC, and he was successful in the Dutch League. Now, when it came to La Liga, Premier League, he really didn't do that well, which is not good. His club career is not as good as it seems. Actually, it's not good at all. And even in the Turkish League, which is very weak, he didn't do well. And sorry to my Turkish viewers. I'm not saying the weakest league. It's just weaker than La Liga and Premier League. It's actually stronger than the MLS. So now let's dive into his national team career, which honestly I believe it's much better than his club career. It wasn't that good of a club career, to be honest with you guys. Make sure you guys comment down below what you think. What do you think of Jozy Altidore's club career? Did it live to his expectations? Was it a disappointment? And while you're at it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Welcome to Tactical Manager TV. I'm sorry I'm very delayed in that in the video. Let's go to his national team career. Okay, so Jozy Altidore for the US men's national team, he played in the youth level and the senior level. He scored 42 goals and had 16 assists in 115 matches, which is pretty good. He ranks only behind Lyndon Donovan and Dempsey for goals scored, and he has less matches. But as I said before, goals need context. Stats need context. For example, Indian star Sunil has 72 international goals, while at the time of this recording, Messi has 71. So stats need context. Sunil is not better than Messi. So let's dive into that for Jozy Altidore. 18 of his 42 goals came from international friendlies. Another 18 came from the CONCACAF qualifiers. 5 from the Gold Cup. And 1 from the Confederations Cup. And none in World Cups. So as you could see, he scored not that many goals when it came to very competitive matches. So let's go through the positives and the negatives. And yes, there's both to it. I'm going to start with the negatives, so then I can make you guys a little happier if you're Jozy Altidore fans right after with the positives. So the negatives are the toughest competitive games he has played would be the Confederations Cup and the World Cup, where he combines 11 games and 1 goal. Now, when it comes to the CONCACAF in general, the only truly competitive team we would play would be Mexico, which he scored only once, and it was at the friendly at February of 2008. He also played 2 World Cups for the US men's national team in 2010 and 2014, all to which he fairly disappointed the team, to be honest. He was also part of the team that lost to Trinidad and Tobago in 2017, which left the US out of the 2018 World Cup. And no, in no way, shape, or form I'm blaming Jozy Altidore for the failure in 2017. But I also cannot not blame him. He's part of the team. He was one of the most important players, and he disappointed like everyone else. So besides that, you could see that most of his goals were in matches that we didn't really care much or weaker opponents. So his stats, would I say they're inflated? No, they're not inflated, but I would just say they're not as significant as when I read them before without putting any context into it. But relax. Let's dive into the positives now. Very first positive is he was the best USA center forward we had at the time. So that's a positive. Congratulations, Jozy Altidore. But there's more to talk about. A little bit more. Not too many positives. He did score in a big moment in the USA game in 2009 for the Confederation Cup semifinals, where USA knocked out a legendary Spain team at a 2-0 win in the semifinals. He also scored one of his international goals in a friendly match versus Germany, Colombia, Chile. So he did score against some competitive teams, such as that legendary Spain team, which is one of the greatest of all times. He scored against a German team in the friendly. He scored against Chile, Colombia. So we can't discredit all his goals. However, we do have to point out that 5 of his goals for the U.S. men's national team came against Trinidad and Tobago. I wish he had scored in 2017, though. 3 against Panama, 3 against Jamaica, 3 against San Vicente. And I mean, there's also games against Canada and other teams that are not too strong. So yeah, his stats are a little high because of the competition he played for. If he played more competitive teams, he likely would not have that many. Now let's talk about Jozy Altidore's main attributes as a player, his skills, and then I'm going to go against his flaws, and then I'm going to give you my opinion at the very end of the video. Jozy Altidore's main skills and attributes are, the first one right away is his athleticism. He is a superb athlete, strong, explosive, amazing. But he does have a couple more. Jozy Altidore is also a very good finisher, very good at headers, and his positioning is actually fairly good. His ability to get assists is something that's often not talked about, but he is pretty good at assisting players in other goals. He does have 73 career assists. So those are his attributes. Now let's talk a little about his flaws, what problems his game has. One of the main flaws of Jozy Altidore is his technical ability, his one touch. He's not that good at that. Also his attitude at times, as he did have issues throughout his career, and we can talk about the whole city and now in Toronto. He's also fairly soft for his size. He could have been a much tougher player, and softness is an issue for Jozy Altidore. Another problem I want to talk about him is his lack of commitment, and it's kind of weird because he is pretty built, he's strong, but he does have a lack of commitment, and you can see that based off his injury history. So if you look at Jozy Altidore's injury history, he had 10 muscle injuries out of 15 injuries he had throughout his career. He missed 226 due to muscle injuries. And well, muscle injuries are different from knee injuries or broken bones. You know why? Because players can prevent that. If you're committed and you go to the gym regularly or you do your thing, just like Cristiano Ronaldo, you'll get less muscle injuries. And durability does matter in sports. And Jozy Altidore has always had silly muscle injuries, which makes me believe he's not committed enough to his own health. Okay? This might just be me speculating, but it is true. Alright, so is Jozy Altidore overrated or not? Well, in the beginning of the video, we determined that he's an average player. So in my opinion, if we go based off that, no, he is not overrated. He is an okay average player. I don't think he's a good player, and whoever voted world class, I'm sorry, you're completely crazy. But he's an okay average player. He was the best center for the U.S. men's national team had at the time, which doesn't mean much. But he has had success in the MLS, the Dutch League, the U.S. men's national team too. So he is an average player in my personal opinion. And I wouldn't call him up for the U.S. men's national team currently. And this comment will probably get me a ton of hate. Okay, I want you guys to comment down below your opinion on Jozy Altidore. Is he an average player? Is he a good player? Is he a bad player? Don't comment world class because I don't want to hear it. Now just remember, when we talk about players like Gabriel Jesus, for example, from Manchester City, we call him a good player. He's not world class. Is Jozy Altidore better than Gabriel Jesus, for example? And I can give other players in the list here if you guys want to. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I'd love to hear your opinion on Jozy Altidore. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a great day.